You're on, Ram.
Okay. And here we are live, the first event of HSMAI India. Thanks everyone. Welcome to the first event of HSMAI India conducted by HSMAI Asia Pacific. Thanks to everyone for taking time to attend this first event out there. 2020 has been a challenging year for the industry. And we don't need to look back to say how challenging it was. But the great news is that as a country, we have been resilient, and as an industry, we have been very resilient out there, and we have bounced back stronger than ever. HSMAI India is currently in development, and we have some great volunteers and industry leaders from across all the leading Indian and international hotel brands, such as the Taj Hotels, the Leela Hotels and Resorts, Hyatt Hotels, Accor, Marriott, and many more of them. This chapter looks very promising, and we look forward to continuing educational opportunities which all the HSMAI chapters globally offer. We are looking for more volunteers to join us in this Indian chapters on short-term projects as well as on our advisory board positions. Jackie Jugglers will, of course, let us know more on how to take this forward for any of you who are interested in the same. Like I mentioned earlier, the industry has been very resilient. Domestic travel is up. We see some of these destinations and hotels starting to beat 2019 numbers already. Leisure demand is already up. The coming years, 2022, 23, and 24 is going to be very critical years for the bounce back. They say that domestic corporate is going to bounce back in 2022. International leisure is going to bounce back to 2019 numbers in 2023, and international corporate is going to bounce back in 2024 to 2019 numbers. So every year is going to be pretty crucial for us. And I think this webinar is coming in at the right time as we are looking forward to the future 3 years out there. Customer sentiment surveys, be it of CoStar, Deloitte, Google, Booking.com, everything is looking very optimistic, and all the surveyed audience is telling that they are looking forward to travel, be it family, leisure, or corporate. Today, we have some good friends and colleagues from the industry who are joining us as speakers. I just want to give a quick overview of the topics that is going to follow. It's going to be a great session. We have Sourav Mukherjee, Vice President Commercial, Asia and Middle East Africa from RateGain, joining us. He's going to be talking about forward-looking demand data, trends for key Indian cities, what are the key source markets coming into these cities, what is the hyperlocal demand for some of these cities, what are the demand trends in the past, what is going to be looking forward, what is the ADR trend and demand looking like, etc. So it's going to be a lot of data and graphs, especially if you're a revenue manager or a commercial leader on this call. You're going to enjoy listening to these numbers. That will be followed by Aman. Aman Gupta is the Area Director of Revenue Management for India at Hyatt Hotels and Resorts. Aman's going to tell us what to do with forward-looking data. Data is great, but it's nothing without knowing how to drive a strategy around it. So data-driven strategies is what Aman is going to be focusing on, and how to use data for making better business decisions. What are some of the sources of data that we as hoteliers can be looking at? And most importantly, what are some of the data sources we need to start to ignore? Unlearning is going to be pretty key for us as we start moving forward. Lastly, and of course not the least, we have Mr. Parveen Chander, Senior Vice President, Sales and Marketing from the Indian Hotel Companies Limited. He's going to be talking to us about how the country and of course the hotels need to start working in order to reconnect with the international audiences, how to position the hotels in such a way that they become the first choice for these travelers, and how to leverage the domestic business, which has already started to boom in this country. We're also going to be understanding some insights from him as to what is the way forward with the corporate as well as other segments out there. So all in all, it's going to be a great power pack session coming up. So it's time to stop driving by looking into the rearview mirror. We need to start looking ahead. The future is ahead and it's forward for us. So it's time to focus on the road ahead while keeping an eye in the rearview mirror, because of course we need to know how far we have come from where we were. So here's looking forward to a great session ahead. Thank you so much once again for joining us, and wishing you all a great next 1 hour. Jackie, over to you, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the great introduction, Ram. Hi everybody, I'm Jackie Douglas. I'm president of HSMAI in the Asia Pacific. HSMAI stands for the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association International. I'll just tell you a bit about that and then we'll move over to Sourav and he'll give you some numbers. So HSMAI is more than 90 years old. We have regions, Americas, Europe, Asia Pac, and the newest one is the Middle East. And we also have a Brazil chapter as well. There's over 7,000 members in 41 countries, I think, somewhere around there. And our focus is on revenue management, sales, and marketing. And we try to cover everything from people coming into those disciplines, as well as people leading those disciplines. So as well as commercial leaders who are running those disciplines. We have an annual conference. It's in Singapore next year, 9th and 10th of June, called the Revenue Optimization Conference. It's a 2-day event, 1 day of conference, and we have some learning sessions on the second day, and then we have some senior leader roundtables on the second day. And we also have a tech show where all the tech companies can tell you what they've been up to during COVID, because they've all been busily making new features and new products for you. We also do events around Asia Pacific. There's 8 markets now. So our newest one is India and the Maldives. We're kind of including that in India. We did a Maldives webinar similar to this last week. So it's great to get started in this region. For India next year, this is the events that we've been planning, and anybody else who wants to join the board and help out can also help with these. We'll be doing a few chapter events, which will be in person or maybe it'll be hybrid so that we can get more people in. And that'll be based at property level or cluster level hoteliers. There's a 2-day workshop later in the year, and that's a full 2 days plus 10 online courses to get you really ramped up on revenue management. And then this one we haven't developed yet, so it's probably going to be later in the year as well. There'll be a workshop on total revenue management. And then during the year, we also run roundtables for senior leaders to get together and discuss the disciplines and what's happening in each area. So it's a pretty big calendar for our first year. So if you're happy to help, we would probably welcome you. I think maybe if you don't know HSMAI very well, you probably know the CRME, which is the certification for revenue managers. That's been run by HSMAI for, I don't know, I think it's about 14 years or something. And then the CHDM is the digital marketing one. So there's those two, and that gives you certification for people who are experienced in those disciplines. And then the CHBA is a bit of a BA for hoteliers. So it's kind of, you put yourself in the general manager's seat and you run the hotel over a 3-month period. You can do that in a group or you can do it individually. So there's 3 certifications now. In 2017, we opened an academy just to try to fill the gap that our board members, the hoteliers, were telling us was there in any gaps in education. So we now have over 21 online courses. We have 3 certificates and 3 certifications. So there's plenty in there to have a look at. We'll send you the links for those after the session. The 2 main ones, there's a 10-course certificate in revenue management. That's 10 online courses. You can do it completely online, start and finish when you're ready. That one's to get people into revenue management, sort of less than 3 years experience, I'd say, for that one. Very similar program for digital marketing. This one's brand new. It's a couple of months old. There's 15 courses to choose from so far. There'll be a few more by February as well. So same thing, 10 online courses, get yourself up to speed on digital marketing. And then, of course, we're a membership association, so please come and join us. This is our mission. to provide hoteliers with tools, insights, and expertise they need to grow their careers in sales, marketing, and revenue management. So HSMAI is a bit different to your local hotel associations where your companies are a member. At HSMAI, the individuals are a member, so it's more like a professional society. So we're focusing on you as an individual and growing your skills, your network, and your expertise. So, and just so you know, in case I don't get back to you later, I'll send you a link afterwards and back to the page where you registered, and you'll be able to download the recording and also the slides from Sourav, Aman, and myself. So if that helps, or if some of your colleagues have missed out on the session, they can come back and watch the recording. Okay, we'll hand over now to Sourav, and he's going to hit you with numbers and tell you about the India markets. Thanks, Sourav.
Thank you so much, Jackie and Ram, for the great, insightful presentation. and thank you so much, Jackie and Sonia, for giving us this opportunity for presenting some forward-looking data, which is powered through Demand.ai, the new innovation that we have made recently. And as Ram ended by saying, let's not drive only by looking at the rearview mirror, and we have to look at the forward-looking data as well. So happy to present some data which can be insightful for the coming weeks and months. Okay, so let's quickly jump into looking at some of the real concerns that technology is really facing at this point in time, while hotels are really doing forecasting, right? Non-standardization of data is one of the most crucial points that we face. We don't know when business is going to come back, which destination is picking up faster, which destination is picking up slower, where you would need to really focus and put your resources in, where you really need to learn, run a lot of campaigns, put a lot of money in terms of pushing business. And of course, we also there is not much of insights on which segment will be moving faster, right? So that's one of the concerns which technology is kind of facing the heat in providing the insights on a regular basis. It also comes down to the changing and the dynamic fact that COVID news and COVID cases are really changing the international dynamics in terms of businesses these days, right? So we don't know how is the airline trends and the airline booking schedules changing on a daily basis. Where are your customers, your end users really going and searching for? Which are the places that looks are increasing but books are not increasing, or maybe where there are looks happening plus books increasing simultaneously, and then which countries are getting impacted further and also getting impacted on travel. So that kind of becomes one of the important concerns. Addition to it, being agile and understanding these data and bringing this data into your forecasting funnel, that becomes really crucial, wherein AI and ML plays one of the most important role, which kind of keeps learning on a real-time basis and gives you the insights to ensure that you are updated on a real time and you are agile to take your decisions as and when things and the macro environments kind of keep changing. And also it's crucial to understand how are we placed in terms of the ecosystem. It's not only understanding how hotels and competitions are doing, right? It's also crucial to understand how are hotels doing, or how is the region doing in terms of hotels compared to car rentals, or maybe alternate accommodations, or maybe airlines, right? Because all these are interrelated, and each of these business segments kind of affect each other in a big way as and when things are changing. So these are some of the concerns that technology is kind of facing the heat to kind of provide data on a real-time basis to hotels while forecasting. So this is on how sentiments kind of keep changing, and history and looks and books kind of keep changing. This is just an example of how the first shot of a vaccination kind of really changed the sentiment, and how the look to book ratio kind of really increased when the first shot of vaccination went on by the mid of December last year. So that's kind of helps you be ready in terms of monetizing the certain demand that's coming in. You are aware of if there is the demand going to change in the near future dates or weeks, Or of course, you cannot just depend on the future historical data, because that will have very, very low accuracy. And you will be really agile to kind of looking forward to ensuring any changes are put into your forecasting funnel immediately as and when those changes happen. So it's crucial to understand how we can add in more data sets which are crucial in today's forecasting. We have been focusing a lot on historical data, the trends, events, competition hotels, rate pays for our competition in the market. But in today's world, post-COVID, we have learned it's really, really crucial to understand how COVID statistics and news is really, really affecting each source markets and the destination markets where we are. So it's crucial to understand when in lockdowns happening, restrictions, bubbles, vaccination rates. It's these things are changing on an hourly and a weekly basis, right? And post that, of course, understanding how is the search data happening in various important platforms like Google and other meta search platforms, including holidays and weather and airline scheduling data. So these are some dynamic data that we really kind of miss out on while we do our forecasting, including data from distribution. How is the reservations flowing for a specific location? How are the bookings happening? It's not only the looks, it's also the books. How many bookings are happening for a certain period of time in a certain destination, including looking at how is the airline traffic being expected from certain source markets to a destination, looking at the capacity and the rate intelligence space for these both source markets and your destination location. So these are some crucial data sets that are really, really dynamic and are changing every minute and hourly basis, which is really important for us to ensure we put this on the top of the funnel, which has become more and more crucial, while bottom of the funnel has to give you the right forecasting results that you are really focusing on. So just to look at certain areas on how AI and ML is really going to influence the entire journey of understanding the demand for a specific location. So understanding certain cases, like in few months back when there was a lot of restrictions being put into Uttarakhand while traveling, you had to do many COVID tests. There was 2 levels of testing. While checking at hotels also, there were certain restrictions, while Himachal did not had that much of restrictions. So the travel surge really happened towards Himachal Pradesh, right? So that kind of, that understanding and that learning should be also incorporated in our rate and forecasting process. Or there are cases wherein increase in percentage of vaccination in a certain location. So the sentiments kind of keeps changing. Understanding these sentiments and also putting it in the data funnel for understanding the forward-looking data is also going to be really, really crucial. Plus, of course, we all know how much influence we get from our news channels, right, in the country, and putting those sentiments also as and when they change in our forecasting funnel has become really, really crucial. So understanding source markets, making your forecasting model more robust, plus looking at how airlines are behaving, because that is impacting our business directly, is really, really crucial. And of course, looking at how each source of data that we are putting in is matched up really well through the learning process that we are doing through AI and ML based. So let's look at some real data on the coming weeks and months, starting with the demand trends in 3 crucial cities, Delhi, Mumbai, and Bengaluru. So this is the data sets for Mumbai. So here what we can see is the current inbound and outbound locations from where travel is happening in Mumbai and outbound to Mumbai. And we all understand currently a lot of domestic travel is happening, and that's the reason India as a country within country is kind of taking the front seat. And of course, outbound has become more to UAE, UK, Singapore, Netherlands, and Thailand. And of course, inbound has more to do with India, and then UAE, UK, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. So understanding these crucial markets and then making our efforts accordingly in these markets are going to be really, really crucial, while keeping a close eye on what is the demand index for each day, and then going hyper local, while I showcase some of those in the coming slides. Looking at Delhi, we have the similar kind of data sets wherein India takes the front seat, and then you do with UAE, US, UK, Thailand, and Singapore on the outbound bit, and of course For inbound, it's majorly, of course, UAE, US, Canada, Germany, and Qatar. So we also know a lot of traffic is coming through locations like UAE, Qatar, when people are taking halts and coming to India because of all, to safeguard themselves from all the restrictions that are being put into various at-risk countries. So this kind of keeps changing, and we really need to understand how it's changing on a real-time basis and make our forecasting model accordingly more agile. Looking at Bengaluru, it's more to do with outbound is of course post India. It will be more with UAE, France, UK, Thailand, and Singapore, and inbound more majorly with UAE, Maldives, UK, Singapore, and Thailand. So this kind of gives us certain picture of where the outbound travel is happening and where the inbound is happening, and accordingly we can run our source market campaigns, maybe run our PPCs, run our promotions, or maybe ensure that rates are being maintained in well parity across all these markets to have the the best yield across all channels, and you do not lose out on any loyalty factor with brands and other platforms that you promote your hotels in. So that's crucial. The second bit of it is also understanding the hyperlocal information on where are people traveling within the city, and understanding how are hotels behaving within the city in terms of ADR, and where can you really push hotels you have in these locations, right? So just looking at the data for Mumbai, you really see which all locations are really looking at high demand for this specific date, right? The Kolaba, Andheri East, Navapada, or maybe Worli, Mud, and Kurla. So these are the locations where the demand is kind of increasing. Of course, it would have further increased by the time, because this data is around a day or two old, because when we put this into a slide. But yes, this kind of gives you the indication on how it's going to further increase. And if you look at the ADR sets for these locations, for hotels in these locations, are constantly increasing. So that's kind of a good sign. And you also understand how vacation rentals are really behaving in these in locations, because that's kind of affecting your business on a direct basis. So it's really crucial for us to understand which all locations hyperlocally people are traveling within the city. So that's one of the data points that we need to be considering while doing our forecasting on this. Similarly, if we look at Delhi, there are certain locations like Defense Colony, Punjabi Bagh, and of course Karol Bagh. There's a lot of business travel that happens to the location, and also a lot of personal travel happens to these locations too, because there are a lot of residential locations around these places. And if you see the ADR also for these locations, certain locations are going really high, like Patparganj, Rajouri Garden are increasing, maybe Saket and Kalkaji are increasing in terms of ADR hotels in these locations. Plus, if you see the vacation rental are kind of behaving in a different way, wherein Vasant Kunj is really doing good in terms of vacation rentals, because some of the best vacation rental and homes and luxury homes are available in these in Vasant Kunj, and that's kind of helping, increasing the ADRs in these locations. So anyone has hotels in Vasant Kunj can always go ahead and target and can understand how is the dynamic of market in the Vasant Kunj area itself. So that kind of gives you the insights to make things more robust. And looking at Bengaluru, of course, we are further deep diving into the data, while we have made it into cluster like East Bengaluru, South Bengaluru, and West Bengaluru. Of course, when we break down this data, we will see some locations in these areas will also go positive in terms of demand index, especially when you look at places like Sarjapur Road, Marathalli, Whitefield. I'm sure like the demands would definitely be increasing in these locations for sure. So the end result is it's really crucial for us to understand how we can compare the hyperlocal data, and also you can compare this data on a weekly, monthly, and yearly basis as well. Let's look at the how some of the dates which are going to be really high demands in some of these locations. So this is how it has fared in the last, I would say, a couple of years, still going towards February 2022. Of course, we all understand how it behaved in the month of March, April, and May last year, when the demand really fell suddenly because of the surge of COVID, but it has been on and off since then. End of the year was quite decent enough in 2020 and 21, end of the year, start of the year was quite decent enough. Again, when it started falling from the month of May and June because of the second wave in the location. And of course, then now we see the sentiments kind of increasing, and September onwards, the demand kind of is going higher now till February. So that's kind of shows the sentiments are going higher for Bombay. And then you will see the similar stuff in Bengaluru as well. And most of the locations you will see the similar trend faring enough. And I think December, January, February are the months when hotels can really go ahead and look at ensuring maximum the best ADRs, and also looking at ensuring the best RevPARs for this model in coming times. Interesting set of data in terms of understanding how markets are behaving, ADR versus airline capacity versus demand. So if you look at the Bengaluru data, so hotel ADRs as well as the demand index are very much in line, and of course it's going further increase as well, while airline capacity is kind of staying steady across, while this is majorly happening towards the domestic side. Of course, the limitations in terms of international flights are still here to stay till 31st of January as per the government of India. And hopefully that eases out, and then you see the peak increasing for airline capacity from February onwards. So the trend is looking really stronger, and especially February is really looking stronger for all the three cities because of various events that are being planned. If you look at data like in Delhi, of course, there are various events which are planned, maybe examples to the Travel and Tourism Fair, the Blast India, right? So all these events are planned in the month of February. So if you see the demand and the ADRs are kind of in line and growing as and when we go towards the end of the financial year, while the airline data is kind of staying steady for all these three locations, and the demand index kind of keeps increasing. And then this is what we look for Mumbai. We have outlier for the month of February. Of course, ADR seems to be peak for a couple of days, possibly for certain social dates, which kind of gives you the indication that hotels would have made good revenue in terms of, while there were some weddings that happened in the month of October and November, while you see the hotel ADRs are kind of staying steady, and the demand index is also increasing in the next 75 days with some big events being planned in the month of February as well in Mumbai. So all in all, the demand is kind of going and increasing further. So these are screenshots, and of course, when someone really uses the tool, there are more data points that you really get to see on each of these trend lines, and which kind of helps understanding how is this trend moving and how we can really move our forecasting to a more robust model. And looking at the ADR quickly before I finish it off and hand it over to Aman to kind of look at how we can use these forecasting forward-looking data in terms of our real-life revenue management days. Of course, whatever we saw just now is kind of looking at the ADRs are going to be the best in the month of February, and that's when I think most of the hotels, be it 3 stars, 4 stars, or 5 star, are kind of really going to be doing the maximum RevPAR in terms of occupancy, as well as we already saw the demands increasing towards that side as well. So if you look at all the 3 cities, be it Delhi, be it Mumbai, or be it Bengaluru, you see all the trends kind of ADRs kind of staying stuck and kind of increasing in the month of February. And of course, hopefully it kind of goes moving, keeps increasing for the trend. So yeah, so this is how it looks in terms of the 3 cities, the 3 key cities. And of course, we are trying to, the systems kind of keep learning with all the information being put into the data lake, and the data becoming more and more robust for helping hotels increasing the robustness of the forecast that you make, and then the results being more real time. Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you so much. Hopefully it was really informative, and of course, let's look at how we can make it more fruitful for partners and the hotels out here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sourav. You gave a great insight to us in your tool. It was really informative. You gave us the key trends in the key markets for India. While Sourav was doing his presentation, I was just wondering that if this presentation was being done in, say, December 2019, the flow of this presentation would have been very different. We would have been talking about a lot of historical data, historical trends, how the markets have been seasonality of the markets, But COVID has taught us a new way to look at data and do things differently. We are no longer dependent on historic data. It's all about forward-looking data. We as revenue managers, commercial leaders have been tuned in such a way historically that we look at a lot of seasonality and a lot of past data in our decision making. However, now things seem to have changed. If we really need to perform in the market, we need to start concentrating a lot on what lies ahead for all of us. So to stay ahead, we need to really focus on the forward-looking data. Sourav has already shared a lot of information in terms of data, so I won't be sharing much of slides on how India recovery is going forward. I will concentrate more towards how we can use this forward data in effective decision making. Most of the technology companies these days, like RateGain, OTA Insight, TravelClick, and STR, are evolving their tools to concentrate on how we can look at the market going forward. This is not about the past trends or how the historical performance has been there. Sourav already took us through the demand AI. It has more to analyze that how market is faring in future, and accordingly hotel can strategize the way forward in terms of the pricing and other commercial strategies. While RateGain and OTA Insight give an overview of the market, TravelClick and STR have gone way ahead, where they are giving in-depth analysis in terms of market segmentations, that how the forward-looking data looks for the market. In-depth analysis that how hotels can concentrate. Maybe some markets are performing better on gross, some are performing better in transient. So accordingly, hotels can strategize for their future months. Obviously, all these tools are paid tools, and in the current scenario, a lot of hotels cannot really afford shelling out additional bucks. But there are certain things which are pretty much available online, and the hotels can leverage this data as well. For example, flight patterns. Flight arrivals, flight booking patterns are readily available on the airport websites. So hotels can leverage these data because flights and the hotel business go hand in hand. You can really relate your business to how the flight patterns in the city is going. So that's a very useful information which is openly available for the hotels, and that should be really referred to in the current market scenario while decision making and strategizing for the hotel. RateGain, OTA Insight, TravelClick also give a granular data of flight search in terms of which cities the searches are happening from, which countries are traveling at the moment. What is the length of stay of a guest coming through these flights? So again, flight data, analyzing flight data has become critical in the current times for any hotel to plan their strategies forward. Another point that Sourav also touched was Google search trends. It's important to look at what the consumer is actually searching in the market. What are the keywords which are really talked about? It will really help hotels to optimize their digital strategies. Another open tool or free to use tool which hotels have readily available with them, but I've seen a lot of hotels not leveraging that tools, are OTA extranet data. OTAs have really become an important platform in last 18 months. They are producing a lot for the hotels, and their extranet tools are very informative. Right from geo summaries to booking lead time, cancellation data, you get everything from the OTA extranet data. So it's important for the hotels to really analyze the data which is already sitting with them. So COVID has completely changed the way bookings are made. Historically, we used to look at the booking lead times, we look at seasonalities. Different months used to behave differently, but currently the market environment is very unstable and more dynamic. So the question is, how do hotels really forecast in such a scenario? I've jotted down a few points which we really need to keep in mind while effectively forecasting for future. And the first and foremost thing is proper assumptions. It's really important when you're doing forecast for 1 month out or 3 months out that you need to have proper assumptions in place, because with the ever-changing market dynamics and conditions, assumptions will play a very important role in reforecasting for any hotel. COVID guidelines are changing almost on weekly or a daily basis. We need to really keep a tab on the COVID guidelines. What are the restrictions for the international flyers? Which flights are operating? What are the RT-PCR rules which are there in different states? Just to give an example, till 15th November, everything was looking pretty good for us as a market. But with the Omicron setting its foot in India now, a lot of states and cities have put additional restrictions from an RT-PCR perspective. And we have seen the market behavior changing ever since. So it's very important for us to really analyze and monitor the COVID guidelines, the local COVID guidelines. Obviously, with the changing market dynamics, it's important to keep the pricing very dynamic. Market conditions are very volatile. We can't have the same pricing approach that we used to follow pre-COVID. Pricing decisions are really changed on an hourly basis in a lot of markets. So revenue manager and the commercial leaders really need to monitor their pricing more efficiently. Geo sources have become really important. We need to really see where our guests are coming. Every city is behaving very differently with limited international demand, and the focus has predominantly been domestic business in last 18 months. However, in domestic business also, we need to further drill down which are the cities and states which are driving business in your market. So going deeper into cities and state level data is also very important, and it will help the digital team also to focus their marketing campaigns accordingly. Booking lead times, as all of us know, have shortened a lot now. Historically, a city hotel was used to see, say, a 7 to 15 days lead time, and used to optimize and yield in 0 to 3 days window. The resort location used to have a typical lead time of 30 to 45 days pre-COVID. Everything seems to have changed now. A leisure destination probably has 7 to 15 days lead time at the moment, or even shorter. And city hotels are predominantly working on a 0 to 3 days lead time at the moment. So the entire strategy of a hotel changes now because the lead time has shortened. So based upon your market, we really need to make up pricing strategies and focus on how the channels are booking in different lead times. And same goes for cancellation as well. The cancellation percentages have really changed over the past 18 months. A lot of hotels have changed their cancellation policies now. What the cancellation policy, which were their pre-COVID, are no longer applicable. Just to give an example, when the COVID set in, all the hotels across city as well as leisure destination changed their cancellation policies. So it's really important that we monitor the cancellation policy, what's been there in the market, and accordingly tweak the strategies for the hotel. Like Ram and Sourav also mentioned, historical data is of very little importance at this point of time. It's more of a reference point from a recovery perspective. We can refer to 18 and 19 data just to see that how the recovery is panning out for 21 and 22. But to make decisions based upon 18, 19 data would not be really correct. We need to focus on the most recent data. Maybe an average of last 2 to 3 weeks will still be better than looking at 19 or 18 data. So it's all about forward-looking data at the moment. Interesting thing for India has been that our market, ever since COVID has set in, has been fragmented into 2 parts. One is leisure and one is city. While city hotels are still struggling to recover to pre-COVID levels, leisure markets have been really performing well. In fact, we have seen some of the leisure markets doing even better than 19. So there can't be a cookie cutter approach where we are implementing the same strategy for a leisure and a city destination. The strategies have to be different for leisure and city. Like I mentioned about the cancellation policies, I saw a lot of hotels, even leisure destination, change their cancellation policies to same-day cancellations. Although the business was pretty high in leisure destination. That has been a long-run approach for a lot of hotels because you leave the money on the table. Leisure business is behaving very differently. We can't be benchmarking everything based upon what's happening in the city market. So if there are revenue or commercial leader which are handling multiple properties and they have multiple portfolio of leisure and city, please bifurcate your hotels in these two buckets and have different strategies for these two markets. Lastly, from a forecasting perspective, we need to focus on total revenue management. Historically, we have seen revenue managers and commercial leaders really focused on room revenue. But it's in the current times, it is all about maximizing the total revenue management. We need to look at which segmentation or channels are giving more total revenue from maybe from an F&B perspective, from an events perspective. So we need to factor in all these things, and we need to be total revenue managers for any property. So what lies ahead for us? Historically, as a commercial team, it was all about demand management for us. There used to be so much of demand, be it a city environment or a leisure environment, and we used to talk about yielding and how to maximize that demand. But key right now in the current scenario is demand generation. How we really generate demand for a particular market or for a particular hotel. So we really need to change our outlook towards the business, focus on how demand can be generated for a particular market. It's very important for us to also analyze the profile of customers which are coming to a hotel. The customer which was coming to a hotel in pre-COVID time and what is coming to a hotel right now is very different. The profile of customers has completely changed. And it is why it is important to concentrate on the profile of the guest is the hotels may need to change their offerings to cater to the needs of the current clientele. So it's very important to analyze the profile of the guests, see what kind of customers are coming currently to the hotel, and maybe if there are certain tweaks which are required in the offerings of the hotel, that needs to be kept in mind. Like I earlier mentioned, leveraging your own channels, digital marketing is very important. We really need to be aggressive on the digital front, ensure visibilities are there. We need to ensure that we are doing strategic calls based upon the geo mix which we are getting for the hotel. We need to focus upon target marketing where the business is coming in the market. So it is very important to understand the customer journey for any of the hotels. ODS continue to be an extremely important part for any hotel. So increase engagement with the channel partners, reviewing of the external data is critical for the hotel. While we've talked about a lot about how you need to leverage your channels and market segmentation and look at different ways of demand generation, one key area which hotels usually tend to miss and really not optimize is their existing database. We sit on a mine of data which is already sitting in our systems, but we do not really leverage that data. It's really important for us as hoteliers that we use the existing database. We know the kind of people which have been coming historically to the hotels. We have that data. So for your marketing or for taking any strategic decision, use that existing database that you have for developing strategies for your hotel. Lastly, on the closing note, I would say it's all about adapting to the changes. The market is very volatile. It's very dynamic. Things change very fast due to COVID. Restrictions change very fast. We need to be on top of our market. So we should adapt to these changes quickly. Revenue managers, sales and marketing team, then really need to monitor their market very minutely and make strategic changes accordingly. That's about it. Thank you. I could see there were some questions, but we'll take those questions at the end of the presentations. Thank you. Over to you, Sonia.
Thank you so much, Aman. Very insightful. And while we have great insights on forward-looking market data and how to capture trends that we are unearthing in this uncertain situation, we also would like to hear more on what is happening on ground in terms of real time.
And so we have now Mr. Parveen Chander, who of course needs no introduction. He has 3 decades of expertise in versatile roles in operations and has led key positions in iconic hotels. And of course, his results-oriented approach and customer-centric approach continues to contribute to furthering the company's market and the brand leadership positions. So we have Mr. Chandra, who would give us insights into what hotels should be doing at this time. Should we reach out to international customers? How do we leverage the domestic demand that is there? What about corporate? Is it coming? All these kind of questions, I'm sure all of you have. So over to him and let's hear from him. Welcome, Parveen.
Thank you. Thanks, Sonia. And great to be on this panel. So the last, 18 months has been fairly tough for our industry. And we've all been going through the data. And when we actually thought that everything is coming back, we again got a jolt with the new variant coming in. However, in order to give you an overview of what the industry currently looks like, the last 2 to 3 months have been very good with recovery. We have seen domestic demand kind of making sure that our hotels have been full. There is a lot of focus on leisure. In fact, we've also seen good recovery coming through corporate and MICE segment. And that was kind of a big encouragement for most of our hotels. But as we move ahead, we see that, there is a word that's kind of was coined by our managing director the other day. It's called cautiously optimistic. And we really believe that we continue to be cautiously optimistic because as we see with the Omicron, there's not that much of an issue in the market. In fact, I just traveled and I saw that the airports are all full. There's an article this morning which talks about that the domestic travel is likely to continue to grow in the next couple of weeks. So there's a bit of an uncertainty, but good thing is that the industry has learned to live with this ambiguity and uncertainty, and we are truly in a VUCA world. So as we move ahead, we change our strategies much faster. Agility is extremely important. That means your strategies have to keep changing with agility. And if I give you an overview of our company, we are quite well spread over leisure, corporate, and business, and we have all kinds of hotels. So we've seen that the last 1 year, the leisure hotels have been having a fantastic growth in terms of business. In fact, most leisure hotels have been doing even better than 1920, almost 110, 120% better. The rates are quite good. And in fact, they haven't been really missing international tourists in that particular category. As far as the large, big boxes and the city hotels are concerned, we still have a lot more work to do. There are certain segments which get filled up by the city hotels getting a lot of staycations, which happens during the weekend. We are seeing good recovery coming in from corporates, but it's not from the kind of business that we used to do earlier. It's more to do from the BCP business. And currently only the top, I would say, first and the second layer of corporate has started traveling because people have still not kind of opened up travel and they're getting used to kind of working from home. There's also new segments emerging in terms of vacations, which means people are working along with taking vacations. So that kind of continues to do. And then the average length of stay with this category of people is increased. So you find that these are the kind of people who don't stay in a hotel for 1 day, they stay for 4 or 5 days where they're also getting their families and working and doing that. So we all know all these trends, and that's, I think, kind of keeping our industry alive. Now, on the question of what we should be doing to kind of, is it time for us to go international? Is it our time to start wooing the international tourists? So I would say we almost had started preparing to do that, but still there is some time as with, again, travel restrictions not getting lifted and countries bringing back various kinds of restrictions on Indian travel and quarantine returning. I do see that we'll probably we have been thrown backward by about 6 months. So we'll have to wait for it. But again, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. We need to start working on it. And I would say there are 3 key steps that we need to take to be ready for opening our doors to international tourists. And the first people who are likely to come in are going to be business travelers. And I personally feel are the Indians who are stuck outside for a long time because they want to come and visit their family, friends, and there are work which is stuck. So what we really need to do is that there needs to be a kind of confidence building exercise. The first pillar that we need to focus on in confidence building, because we do have 1 billion vaccines being delivered, and India has a very good score with vaccination. If you look at our sero surveys in Delhi and Bombay, Delhi is almost close to 95%, and Mumbai is almost close to about 85%, which is probably the best in the world. So these are people who either have recovered from COVID or have got vaccinated. So when we talk of these kind of things, that gives more confidence. And over the last couple of weeks, I've been talking to international travelers and to my colleagues who are in the US and UK. And what we see is that there's a huge resistance to getting vaccine in those countries. So I think that's one positive. And if, for example, our own staff in our hotels are now almost 100% double vaccinated. When I say almost 100%, there were some people who were left behind because of the age lag, and that would get done in the next couple of weeks. So with that kind of a vaccination score, I haven't seen cases among employees for a very long time, which is a great thing. And as we move ahead, we also feel that confidence building is going to be one of the most important key thing that we need to do to get our people back. Second thing that we'll have to do in the international market is we will have to go back and, since memory is short, we'll have to kind of market India, and we need to do that with Ministry of Tourism and what we've done in the past. So get India on top of the mind, because people do forget, and there are other countries which are actually going there and promoting because the borders open much faster. So that's the second pillar that we need to focus upon. And the third thing is that specifically for the travel industry, I feel that the entire web of the travel industry has gone through very massive disruption. So we will have to go back and figure out and get new threads connected. So when I talk to my travel agent friends, a lot of people in India and international have actually changed businesses. They are not into the same business anymore, because 2 years is a long time for people not to produce anything. So you will have to spend a lot of time to kind of get the same things going. I do see a bit of disruption in terms of our RFPs. I see disruption in terms of the pre-contracted rates and so on. And I do see a lot of businesses likely to come through digital, which means you would see most of the people moving towards digital channels since pricing is going to be easier. The quantum of business is not going to be easy to forecast. So all that was happening 2 years back is going to get tested when the international borders open up. And not that travel is not happening. There is a bit of travel happening as we speak, but that's more towards critical travel or crucial travel and so on. So I think these are some of the things that we need to do when it comes to looking at our international travel. The other question, Sonia, that you asked was that what should be the sales and marketing should be doing to focus in India, and what are the segments that you should be doing? So again, I will divide this question into two parts. So as we speak, for the next 6 months, we will have to continue to focus on segments that are continuing to work. So there's a lot of work happening in infrastructure in India, and we found that there was time that this is the best time since everything is not back to 100%. So infrastructure is one segment which is kind of working very well. There's a lot of work happening in BCP, which is business continuity. There's a lot of work happening in finance segment. So you will have to go back and look at the traditional channels. Traditional channels which are not producing currently, but all these channels are still kind of active. So that's one area where we need to focus upon. The other thing that I would tell my friends in the hotel industry to focus on is that we need to build confidence for the industry to start bringing in MICE. So what's happening is there is always a skepticism, and it takes a lot more effort to get people to come out and do a small conference. And when they want to kind of, it all starts from the first senior leadership getting together to do their first little conference of 50 people, and then it gets into getting your key partners, and then it gets into the larger numbers. But there is a lot of work which goes in with respect to hand holding. So I think today people need more confidence building and need more customized solutions for MICE than they needed it before. The same goes for even events, and same goes for weddings. So people are doing work, but they need a lot more hand-holding because predictability has disappeared. So I think that's one area where our industry needs to focus on. And in India, we've always been known for service. We've been known for customized solutions. We've been known to engage with our people much better. So I think that's one area where we need to focus upon. And the third thing I would say, other than BCP, MICE, and that we need to focus upon would be, again, relationships. We feel that your relationships are key to get your business back. So wherever you have your people that you've kind of been in touch with for a number of years, there is going to be a bit of a choice of the hotels that they want to stay in. It's not always the price, because people are still skeptical about safety and other issues. So I think these are some of those three key things that we'll have to focus. And that's one area which will get the business back into your hotels. We are not really in situations like what we were about a year back. Most hotels now we see are into about 60, 70%, 80% of revenues of 1920, which is great. So the cash flows are much better with most hotels. And when I say that, that's not only Indian Hotel Company, I'm representing the entire hotel fraternity. And that's a great news. So we need to continue working towards building confidence and filling up our hotels.
Right. Thank you so much, Parveen. You mentioned, that, of course, Indian hotels are known for their service and, rightly so. But in this age of, where you have contactless service, etc., what is it possible to do personalization? Are there changes in guest expectations? How are you all tackling those?
So good question. I feel that contactless was very much is part of the industry now. So we all kind of introduced contactless services about a few months back, almost about a year back, and it's there to stay. But we don't see any reduction in the customer's need for engagement. They might not need to, probably the modes of engagement have changed. They might not like to have one-on-one meeting, or they might not like you to kind of meet them in the lobby as often as before. They still meet you in the lobby. But now the engagement is all digital, right? So it's on the phone calls, it's on WhatsApp and emails, and so engagement continues. And we don't see that going in any case. And then Indian style hospitality is always going to happen because specifically when you're on a leisure travel or even when you're on a business travel, your needs are far more now, right? So, you want things to be done in a certain manner. You want people to tell you what to do, where to kind of go and have your meeting. There is always constant concierge demand in terms of understanding what is required for the travel, what we need to do with RT-PCRs and so on. So actually the engagement is much higher than before.
Right. I just have one more question. You mentioned about, digitalization, and of course, we have adapted to it well. Now, what about things like Google announcing the launch of free hotel booking links? Now it is going to allow hotels to directly display their rates on Google Hotel. So what does this indicate for hotels? Does this spell the doom for the travel agent? Or do you think both can coexist side by side?
Okay, so, there are two parts of it. Again, I would divide that into current and what we see in the future. So as we see, more and more people are adopting digitization for bookings, and that number is changing every year. And I would say that that's only natural, right? So more and more people having mobile devices, more and more people having access to various kinds of, people want the power of booking in their hands. So with digital wallets, it's so easy. You would be sitting in a restaurant, you book your hotel, book your room, information is there. So that explore and doing business is kind of going to continue. However, we do still see that does not really mean any doom for the traditional channels, at least in India, not so, because I would tell you that we still have a lot of people who continue to call up the hotel reservation offices and make bookings and try and deal with one-on-one. So in the future, as we see, we will see a lot more people getting digital. But the traditional channels are not exiting out in the next 2 to 3 years as we speak.
Okay, but thank you so much, Parveen. Very, very insightful. I will also invite questions from anybody else who would like to ask any of our panelists. Please go ahead.
I think someone who's logged in as 1+7 had a question Maybe you can put it in the chat. I think it might have been a question for
Somebody's asking. Okay.
No,
No, I don't think so.
yeah.
I don't see any questions.
Yeah, but if anybody has any questions, feel free to jump in now and go ahead. We have about a minute.
Maybe I'd like to ask a question to Parveen now that he's here. I'll take this
Yes,
opportunity.
Certainly.
Yeah. So of course, Parveen, like first of all, of course, congratulations for being the strongest brand, of course, globally. We all know it now, and then you make us proud as a country. So Taj Hotels has hotels across breadth and spectrum, top and bottom. Like you have various categories, right? So just want to understand, how are you really looking at ensuring all kind of hotels, be it a palace, be it a urban business hotel, be it a hill, be it a luxury in maybe in London. So how are you ensuring demand is really kind of taken care of, changing demand scenarios in all these locations are being really taken care of, and how the entire process is really flowing down to the bottom of the funnel in terms of the entire forecasting and the revenue management process. So how is it, because it's a large ship, right? So how is the company really managing to doing such a great job that you guys are already doing? It's always good to learn.
So yeah, so I can spend a couple of hours on explaining this to you, but I'll try and
I'm
make
sure.
it
Big
crisp.
question, right? Big question.
Yeah, I'll try and make it crisp. So, we have a well-established system of revenue management in the company, and, we've got revenue managers who cover every hotel, and they kind of either work on a cluster system, or large hotels have their own revenue management team, and Bridge, who heads our revenues, is quite experienced a number of years. And so we follow we've got most of the demand parameters are observed on a regular basis. We know what are our traditional channels of business and what are the channels of business which kind of are the new emerging ones which help us to acquire new customers. And there's a lot of work which goes in. So what you said is very interesting, that we've got all kinds of hotels, so that's the great thing. We've got a majority of hotels which are, the large buckets are actually city hotels, where which were traditionally more corporate driven and business driven. And then we have the resorts, which are far more leisure driven. So in each area and each segment, we do follow the trends. We know what the market, what are our emerging markets, what are our customers. So I think in order to know your demand, you need to know your customers. So we spend a lot of time on knowing our customers first. And that starts from our loyalty program to having people who are visiting you regularly, and then we know which are the channels. And also at various stages, we use other things like our OTA partners, and we also use our own website. And as I said, our traditional channels of HRO and sales and marketing are still kind of going strong. So they all work in tandem. It's like a Big Ben clock. If you ask me what makes which, kind of thing click, I will not be able to kind of specify it, but we've got a well-defined process to it.
Yes. Thank you, Parveen.
Thank you.
We have just one more question from 1+7. If you could go ahead and we can just take this last question.
I'll just have to let them be able to, unmute. You should be able to you should be able to unmute now.
Jackie, I think I'm not being able to unmute.
No, it's 1+7. The person who wants to ask the question needs to take the
He
mute
needs
off.
to unmute himself. Okay.
Yeah.
1+7, can you unmute yourself and then go ahead and ask what you wanted to ask?
Looks like James Bond 007.
Secret. It's a
He's
secret
even
question.
higher. He's 1+7.
I can see a question on the chat right now.
There we go.
asking,
Might have put it in the chat.
what would be the future resort demand?
What would be the
Wants to
future
look at the
resort
crystal
demand?
ball. Yep.
No, it's not. It's
Crystal
not.
ball.
I don't think it's a crystal ball. I very
Yeah.
strongly feel resort demands are continuing to grow. And what's really happened? We have changed the customer. Not we. Pandemic has changed the habits of Indian customers. And I'll just take 2 minutes on that. One, more and more people are discovering India. The roads infrastructure in India is at all-time best. It's never been so good. The number of cars and SUVs that India is buying now has never been so good. So India is going through what happened in the US 30 years back, when the road infrastructure started getting better and cars started getting better. So the resorts in India are going to continue doing well, because a normal average Indian is taking far more holidays now than before. Now, that might be because of instant gratification, or because of celebration, or because of understanding that, you know, COVID has completely changed our the way we want to kind of connect with ourselves and with our family. So that's one. So you would see resorts will continue to grow. And even when the international markets open, there would be a certain demand which will come from the international market, but domestic market and domestic resorts are here to stay, because we forever have changed the habits of the Indian consumer. Pricing could definitely keep varying, because it's not going to be as crazy as it is now, because it's very difficult. I spend most of my time in the day trying to help people that I know to book resorts into places which are kind of unique, but pricing might go down a little bit, but I don't think demand is going anywhere.
Thank you.
We have a lot of demand which is currently not getting service. So wait till you get the weddings kicking in and everything. So it's going to continue to grow.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that point, Rohina. The unconstrained demand is really high right now for the leisure market. I mean, I in the past, I used to do a lot of these driving, like you say, you know, to a lot of these resorts. That used to be my favorite getaway every quarter. Now I see a lot more people at these places, which weren't that frequented.
Yeah.
So you are absolutely bang on with that analogy out there.
Yeah. So guys, great. Thank you, everyone. This has been a very, very insightful session, I must say. Aman, Sourav, and Parveen, really, thank you very much. You have really answered a lot of questions that's been on everybody's mind. For anyone else who has any questions, I think you can email either Jackie or me, and then we will sort of get back to you. I am putting in my email ID on the chat. Please, and thank you all. Jackie, last words from you.
Okay, everybody, again, thank you, Sourav, Aman, Parveen, Ram, and Sonia. We hope to see you more often in India, and afterwards we'll send you within a couple, maybe an hour, a couple of hours, we'll send you an email, give you access to the recording, the slides, and some links to other things that we've spoken about HSMAI. So hope to see you again soon.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
so much.
Have a great
Thank
day.
you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Happy
Bye.
holidays. Ciao. Bye-bye.
Happy
Happy holidays. Bye.